Modern European drama refers to the body of work published by noted European playwrights in the modern age. The timeline for this will be from late 19th century to early 20th century. Uh, we are all aware of the previous dramatic traditions that we have come across, from the Roman plays to the Elizabethan era to Restoration period and all. But here in this particular paper, we are going to learn about the shift in the dramatic traditions which were taken up by the modernist playwrights. A lot had changed from the time when larger than life stages, costumes, stylized movements, and most importantly, very dramatic, melodramatic dialogues were used for plays. So since Elizabethan era, drama or playwriting had changed, right? So because if we think about Shakespeare as a pioneer for the kind of plays that we are mostly aware of, over the years, there had been a lot of change. There has been a lot of change in the political and social atmosphere, which had brought a lot of modifications in the genre of drama. Specifically in the late 19th century, the playwrights from all over Europe, for example, France, Germany, Ireland, Norway, everybody started to use a particularly new flavor in the contemporary theater world. So this had resulted in the birth of the modern European drama tradition that we are going to discuss in this particular paper. So it had influenced the modern age literature in many ways, because the modern European drama specifically targeted the socio-political problems that were going on all around us. So when we talk about modern European drama, we have to think about why is it called modern? We have to think about the differences between what is modern, what is modernity, and what leads to modernism. So these differences we need to learn before going into the genre of the play. The timeline where the modern European drama became popular, it also has to do with a lot of changes that was happening in all over the world. For example, industrialization. In the modern society, industrialization, which lasted from 1760 to 1820s, brought a lot of changes to the lives of people who were living in Europe. The modern age saw rapid growth of big cities, capitalism, decolonization, gender sensitivity, and most importantly, the two world wars. So it also brought about the change or a shift in the world economic powers as well. So the modernism that had taken over the European world during these times created a wave of change in literature and art of this particular age. With the changes of the political and ideological changes that we had seen in Europe, European drama also started using these shifts in writing the plays and also in staging them. Drama is specifically for staging, so the stagecraft also is written accordingly, right? So there had been big transition in the themes, characterization, and form of writing plays as well. So in the age of Restoration, for example, in when the plays were only restricted to heroic tragedies or only Restoration comedies, in the modern age, the playwrights started to experiment with their content after being inspired by the changes which we saw in the social and the political scenario all around. So some of the noted playwrights whom we are going to study in this particular paper are Henrik Ibsen, Jean Genet, Bertolt Brecht, Samuel Beckett, Harold Pinter, and Eugenia Ionesco, etc. So all of them belong to the modernist tradition. But before going into the plays, we also have to think about what were the changes which were brought about by uh, a movement which we can call the avant-garde movement. I'm going to show a few paintings in order to talk about this particular movement, because first the revolution happened through the medium of art, and then it spread to literature and all, right? So Paris was the hub of everything that was going on. For the first time, whatever happens, it happens in Paris specifically. So the movement of which we can call the avant-garde movement also began from there. Avant-garde, which means advanced guard, the pioneers who started this challenging, radical viewpoint in order to show art which was supposed to be not accepted by the elites who owned the art galleries or salons or parlors, right? So the shift from painting perfect subjects, which were supposed to be portraits of probably the elite class, the shift became towards the common people, the individual, the working class. So that shift also was seen in the plays as well. So let me just share the screen. I hope it is visible. A radical art movement began, as mentioned earlier, a radical art movement began in the late 19th century. And before art, I would like to also talk about Marcel Duchamp, who placed a urinal as a piece of art, which he called the fountain. And it was rejected, obviously, by the fancy parlors of Paris, but he created alternate galleries where people who experimented with art and sculpture could showcase their art. Of course, this was not accepted by the already established art critiques and art forms of that particular time, but they pioneered the uniqueness or the uh, questionable nature of our lives, our existence, which came into existence through the which was questioned by the writers of that time, the artists of that time. He pioneered it, right? So as you can see, the movement was centered mostly around Paris, and individuals as were the objects of um, these paintings, right? So, and they were rejected by the official exhibitions. Common people, the working class, like the floor scrappers, the people who are drinking in the bars, a sunset, sunrise, people just walking around on the streets. So during this time, people were going through kind of an existential angst, a crisis where people were finding everything meaningless, right? So men's quest for meaning in the life that they were leading, that also became a subject matter as well, right? So there was a time was becoming cyclical. People were thinking, why are we surviving? What is the point of living like this? So all these things got expressed through paintings as well. For example, Edvard Munch's the scream, the inner scream that we feel came out in a painting called The Scream. Like, this is the painting. Then how mentally we have been thinking about uh, whatever is going on, right? So Freud was becoming popular during that time. Mental health issues were being addressed. So psychological analysis of issues were also being talked about, how our mind constantly thinks about something. If all the thoughts that are going on constantly in our head can be put into a piece of paper or piece of canvas, what will it become, right? So Salvador Dali's these persistence of memory portrays something like that, right? So everything that goes on as our mental image is being painted. And so the surrealism talks about that. Then comes the old blind guitarist. Abstract ideas of painting. It's not an absolute, perfect, beautiful, conventional painting that you can see, right? So, and then becomes even as the time passes by, the idea of abstract symbolism became even more popular. Then comes the impact of the First World War. Between the 15th and 19th centuries, Europe was a center of power in the world's political and economic front. And it was this multinational power that um, everybody was sharing during that time, Europe was sharing, that had led to the First World War in 1914. And by this time, modern Europe had become a greatest action center for the world's most highly rated work of art, literature, science, as well as political ideologies. As always, political changes had their impact on the kind of literature that was being written during these modern times. And the drama of this age also showed how industrialization had affected social setting of the countries. Dramatists also targeted the bourgeois class, and the effects of decolonization on the imperial class of Europe also played an important role during this time. Right. So to talk about the main themes of modern European drama, it was the everyday activities, the real world, domestic issues, naturalism, realism, absurdism, like many other isms under modernism were dealt with in these plays, right? So the common themes under which modern European drama was written, we are going to discuss in detail what is realism, what is naturalism. We will see social criticism. We will look at modern tragedy, absurdity, theater of cruelty, etc. Right. So we had moved away from romanticism during that time, and we had started working towards the themes that middle class and the contemporary societies will be associating with more. They will be that will be more relatable for the common people.